Do you guys want to learn a little bit about how I listen to birds? Okay, so let's talk about that for a second. So listening to birds is something that a lot of people feel intimidated by or confused by. And I think that's partly because there hasn't really been a lot of good literature or teaching methods for sound, partly because it's all been done with books. So, if you have a book, you can't really hear what the sound is, so it's hard to explain what's happening. And unfortunately, most guidebooks, visual guidebooks, resort to using these things called transliterations, where they write down what they think it sounds like tea kettle, or, any of those sort of ways of translating bird sound into words. Those work horribly. They're terrible, and I don't advise them unless you're doing them for yourself. So if you want to create your own system where you hear bird sounds and you want to write out for your own memory, like, oh, that sounds to me like blah, blah, blah. But if you look at all those books, which we actually used to do in our talk about the Warbler Guide, we'd have like a set of transliterations we put on the screen. I think we had like 15 of them that were all different. And we said, which birds are these? And nobody would get it. And then we'd say it's all the same bird, just from different books. So, so it's really good not to do that. We want to use a system that's much more specific and is going to give us information that's useful. So when you're looking at birds visually, oftentimes as you learn to bird, you learn to look for specific things, right? So at first you'll see some sparrows on the ground, and sparrows are a hard one, but if you see sparrows on the ground, you'll say, well, they're just all brown and little birds. I don't know, they're all sparrows. But if I say, well, look at that one, it has wing bars. So now I'm teaching you a word called wing bars, which makes you look at that thing, which are these little stripes on the wing, and that one doesn't. Well, now you've just started to identify, because you're saying, okay, that one has that and that one doesn't, and I'm looking at that specific area so I can tell them apart. Well, sound is exactly the same thing. So what you do when you're visually birding is something you can do when you're listening also. And what I do is I listen for some very specific categories of description that help me know what the sound is. Actually, you don't have to know what the bird is. What I'd like you to be able to do is be able to tell songs apart, right? One mistake a lot of people make when they're trying to learn sounds, they try to learn the melody, because that's what we do with human songs, right? So like, row, row, row your boat. It's like the sequence in which the different pitches go, and that tells you sort of what the song is, right? But that's not really that useful with bird songs, partly because that can change, and secondly because bird songs aren't necessarily melodic, right? So they could sound like, so that's something like that. That's not melodic at all. It's cool, but it's not melodic. So let me tell you one of the categories I listen for. There's 4 in total, so it's not too many things to try to remember, hopefully. And by the way, this is all outlined in the Warbler Guide. We have a whole chapter on it. And I've also done some videos online. If you go to the Terra Listens site, you can go there and I'll explain each of these characteristics. The first thing I listen for is quality, right? So what I mean by quality is what's the tonal quality of the sound I'm hearing, right? And the categories I use are, is it clear? Is it buzzy? Is it, let's see, clear, buzzy? Is it, I just blanked. Clear, yeah, exactly. Clear, buzzy, complex, which is actually a special sound that I'll explain. Is it noisy? Is it harsh? Like those are 4, and you can actually create additional terms for this in your own mind, but those are some sounds descriptions that I use. So for example, the Baltimore Oriole, when they sing, that's a clear sound. It's something you could whistle. It sounds melodic, and it sounds like very, like not a complex sound at all. It's just like a, that would be a clear sound. Like that, exactly. A buzzy sound is a bzz. So you'll hear it a lot, like black-throated green, black-throated blue, bzz, 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 bzz. Like that's a black-throated blue, and that's a buzzy sound, right? It sounds like a bee or a buzzing like that. Noisy is like a sound, right? So noisy could be, starlings do it a lot. You could say that, you might say it's also coarse or rough, but you could also say that a great egret's call is noisy. Like when they get out and fly, they make that horrible sound, like that croaking sound. So those are the kind of categories I'm talking about when I talk about quality. So if you just, I won't go any further than that right now, and why don't we just listen for a little bit as we're walking, and we'll see if we can pick out some qualities of what we're hearing.
Can I just ask you real quick how you would describe the Veery sound?
Okay. So that's like having two sounds at the same time. Yeah, that's its own special category. So I would call that alien. We actually like to call that alien because it's, and all it is so most birds have two syrinxes, and syrinx is like our voice box basically, and they can actually make two sounds simultaneously, which people can't because we only have one. So
Which bird are we talking about?
most birds.
The Veery.
Oh, veery, right, which is a thrush, and the thrushes like wood thrush and veery, hermit thrush, they all make these really cool sounds where it sounds sort of haunting or alien. You know, the wood thrush nickname in Appalachia is forest angel, because they sound like this sort of strange, ethereal sound. Yeah, and so they. So when you hear a bird using two voice boxes at the same time, it can be a really complex. Let me play one for you. So, do you guys hear this guy up here?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a goldfinch up there. Okay. So how would you describe the sounds you're hearing from that bird? Yeah. What else? Squeaky, did you say?
Call it
Tweety. That's interesting. Yeah, because it's sort of staccato, right? Yeah, like a tweet, tweet, tweet. Like the T sound is like makes a staccato sound. Clear. And there's something else in there too, though, if you listen. Oh. Nice. That's not it. He's eating now. He doesn't want to sing. Oh, there's a big great blue flying in. Yep. The other sound I hear from him is he'll do little buzzes in there too. So he'll go like that. And so that's actually a really good thing to listen for too. If a bird does more than one kind of sound in its song, there's not that many birds that do that. So that's actually a really good thing to listen for. Now that other sound we're hearing, anybody know what that is? Yes. Yeah, it'll get driven into your head here in McGee because you'll hear it basically 24 hours a day everywhere. The yellow warblers are incredibly vocal here. We hear yellow warblers doing stuff here that we don't hear anywhere else, especially on the boardwalk. I think it's because they're in this very compressed space, and so they're doing a lot of sort of variance on their territorial calls that makes some really weird sounds. But it's always clear like that, right? So people will say, sweet, sweet, I'm so sweet, but it's, so what's happening there, how would you describe that sound in terms of quality? But quality in terms of like tonal quality? Clear, exactly. The whole song is clear. The yellow warbler only sings clear songs. If you hear a bird and it's singing a song and it's not clear, it's not a yellow warbler, okay? And so one of the really cool things about studying these songs is we start to be able to make rules like that. We start to be able to say, okay, if we hear a song that's all clear, it could be yellow warbler, but if there's anything buzzy in there, it's not. Now, yellow warbler flight call, which is not part of their song, but when they fly from one spot to another, they go bzz. They make like a really distinct buzz sound. They go zzz, like that. And so you'll hear buzz there, but everywhere in their songs, you'll never hear it. So, and the structure for the basic yellow warbler song is, right? So it's doing, if you see a picture of it, it goes high, high, low, 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 high, right? So it goes, right? And so I use sonograms a lot when I'm teaching and when I'm learning about songs, because you can see those structures and it really helps you see what's happening with the song and you can learn it quickly.